Hello everyone, my name is Kiana Michelle. I want to say thank you each to coming to my training module today. Today I will be training you guys on identifying and responding to microaggressions. So first we're going to start off with this short clip, and after we watch the clip, you guys will each tell me some of you guys will be telling me like what you feel like is wrong within the video, okay?
I'm Shasina.
Okay.
There's a really good terrible.
Okay.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no, where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, well, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean. But I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
I'm Shasina. There's a...
Alright, so can any of you guys tell me what was wrong in that video? Can you give me an example?
Where exactly before you reply, like try not let down or irritate.
Right. And what is that message insinuating?
She's not mad.
Right. Anything else in the video that you guys realized was a red flag? Yes.
Lots of prejudice.
Okay. Can you elaborate?
He prejudged her and like was like, I knew you were from there.
Mhm.
He didn't. So.
Right. So basically like making her know that like you must not be American because you look different, right? Alright, so that's going to segue right into my presentation on microaggressions. But first I want to say what you guys will be learning today. So the performance objective is as a result of this training, trainees will be able to effectively respond to a microaggression using the action method. The action method you guys will learn like later on in the presentation. And to overview what we'll be discussing today, the first one is defining a microaggression. Then it's the different type of microaggressions, the common themes of microaggressions, and what you say after you say a microaggression, and taking action. So that's responding to a microaggression. Alright, first and foremost, what is a microaggression? So a microaggression is an everyday verbal or nonverbal slights or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate derogatory messages that target people based solely upon their marginalized group membership. So essentially, like the reasons I highlighted like intentional or unintentional is because those are like comments where people might be saying something, but they don't even realize how harmful it is. So like comments like, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, that I've gotten like when I was younger, that's basically insinuating that yes, it might seem as a compliment, which the person probably had no malicious intention behind that message, but it's insinuating that because I'm dark-skinned that they would have expected me not to be pretty. But it's like, oh, you're pretty because you're a dark-skinned girl. Does that make sense? So a microaggression can also be environmental. So that is basically things that we're exposed to on a daily that we probably don't realize. So like an example would probably be like in textbooks. So you know like in textbooks how like they basically only show like a certain perspective, which is typically like a white heterosexual perspective, and it doesn't really elaborate on like Hispanics or other marginalized groups or even women's or things like that. So like that would be an environmental microaggression. So it's not something that is like said to you directly, however it's basically something that's still insinuated. Make sense? Great. So there are three types of microaggressions. The first one is a micro-assault. So the most conscious and intentional form of microaggression. So it's like old-fashioned racism, essentially. So this includes mocking another language. So you know, like when people will hear another language and instead of like them just kind of ignoring it or disregarding it or understanding that they have this, you know, this language barrier or whatever because they're from somewhere else, basically like mocking it, so making fun of it, right? So another type of microaggression is micro-insults. So this is when someone is insensitive to someone based on their racial identity or heritage. Sometimes a person saying it thinks they are giving a compliment. So again, this will go back to the first comment that I made about you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. And last one is micro-invalidation. So this is when someone invalidates a person. It's negating someone's thoughts or feelings. So example is when like some people try to back up after saying like a comment that may come off racist to be like, oh, I have a black friend, like that don't mean nothing, like you know what I mean? Like so that would be micro-invalidation because like you're basically invalidating that you just said something that was offensive. Or another example would be you're being too sensitive. So like often like I know women in society, like when we're too emotional or when we show a little emotion to people, they just be like, you're being too sensitive, you're taking it too seriously. So that would be a micro-invalidation. So that's invalidating someone's feelings and not really acknowledging how they feel in the moment, and you're basing it based off, you're basing their feelings based off what they identify with. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So there are common themes of microaggressions, and I'm just gonna go through a couple. I'm not gonna go through each and every one. So one of the themes is alien in one's own land. So an example would be when Asian Americans, Latino Americans, and others who look different or are named differently from the dominant culture are assumed to be foreign born. So that would be an example of the one that I just showed you of the Asian woman in the beginning, and him insinuating that because she looks different, that she must not be from America. So a microaggression example is, again, where are you from, or where were you born? You speak English very well. What are you? You're so interesting to look at. Continuing to mispronounce the name of students after students have corrected the person after time and time again. So again, like, have you ever like heard those names that like might be challenging to say, and like you look at it and it's just like, what? And instead you automatically give them a nickname. So that would be basically considered a microaggression, because instead of you acknowledging that their name is different because of wherever their background is from, I feel like someone's name is a part of their identity, right? So if you can't pronounce somebody's name though, that's a part of them, and I feel like as a Samaritan, we should take the time to learn somebody's name. Like, we shouldn't just basically just be like, I'm not saying that name, I don't know how to say it. Like, no, because that's a part of their identity and what they identify with. So that would be basically an example of someone basically alienating someone because of their name, and it's non-English based. And it's basically insinuating that they're not a true American, that your ethnic and racial identity makes you exotic. All right, so another theme of microaggressions is ascription of intelligence. So that's assigning intelligence to a person of color or a woman based on his, her race, gender. So we've all heard this one before, right? So what's an example that you guys can probably think of that somebody insinuated that someone was smart because of their gender or race?
Like how Chinese people are good at math.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's a perfect example. So that's basically insinuating that because someone is Chinese, that they must be good at math, right? So that would be a description of intelligence. So you are credit to your race. Wow, how did you become so good at math? To an Asian person, like you just said, you must be good at math. Can you help me with this problem? So again, insinuating that because of their background that they must be smart or whatever, right? So people of color are generally not as intelligent as whites. So again, it's like basically like when you look at a black person, it's like, oh, you probably don't know. So instead you select the people around the room and it's like, the Asian must be good at it. Instead of you basically going to the black person, because you probably feel like they're not as intelligent because of what society has potentially portrayed to you, right? So then it's also it's insinuating that all Asians are intelligent and good at math or science, and it is unusual for a woman to have strong mathematical skills. So next is colorblindness. So these are statements that indicate that a white person does not want to or need to acknowledge race. So an example of that is when I look at you, I don't see color. There is only one race, the human race. America is a melting pot. I don't believe in race. So that's just denying the experience of students by questioning their credibility and validity, So again, that is kind of insinuating that they're the dominant culture and that they're basically like doing that micro-invalidation thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you're this, like, no, I don't see race, like that, you know, you're taking it too seriously type of thing. So it's invalidating somebody's like feelings or whatever, right? Great. Next one would be, how many minutes?